All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We will now continue with the second portion of our Sustainability Snapshot series that highlights individual reflections on how creative climate theses can be built into any industry. So for this session, we're spotlighting two climate leaders who are reimagining sustainable operations in chocolate making and circular fashion, respectively. So first up, we have Brad Kinser, the chief chocolate maker at award-winning Cho Chocolate based in Berkeley, California. So as a brief intro, prior to joining Cho, Brad was a chocolate maker and product developer at the US bean-to-bar pioneer Scharffen Berger. And leading up to his 20 years of chocolate making, Brad studied botany and environmental studies at the University of Vermont and spent months working on cacao plantations throughout Latin America. Since 2009, Brad and his team at Cho have focused on innovating every aspect of the chocolate making process, from cocoa genetics, fermentation and roasting, all the way to developing unique and tasty chocolate products for market. And Brad is currently president of the Fine Chocolate Industry Association and serves on the board of the Heirloom Cacao Preservation Fund. So with that, Brad, I'll let you take over from here.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I just hopefully everyone can hear me. Look, sounds good. All right, great. I see a yes in the chat. That's a good one. All right, well, this is probably the most challenging presentation I've ever had to give, which is speak about chocolate in under 10 minutes. So bear with me. It's going to be a little bit of a whirlwind. But I'm so thrilled to be here, and the day's been awesome. I'm going to try to share my screen right here. Pull this up here. And I apologize, I have some slides, but I just find that sharing some pictures of what I'm talking about is helpful, especially in the context of chocolate, and the fact that we don't have chocolate in front of us. I wish I was able to send some in advance, but we'll be sure to next time. My name's Brad. I'm the head chocolate maker at Cho, and we're a Bay Area based company, and our passion from day one has been exploring the diversity that exists in the world of cocoa. Many people think of chocolate as sort of one principal flavor, which is that chocolatiness, quote unquote, which, is typically sort of that, burnt brownie edges, fudginess. And really, there's so much more to chocolate than that, as beautiful as that flavor is. And so we really started with this idea of exploring different flavors. We were founded in 2007, and really, have still, follow that guide of just exploring flavor. And I just wanted to share a little bit. Most people, have a deep appreciation for chocolate, but many people don't understand or don't know much about where it comes from. So I just wanted to walk you through a little bit about that. Just to put it into context. Cho buys chocolate from all over the world. You can see this map here detailing some of the countries where we work. It is cocoa beans are a true tropical plant. It's native to the Amazonian basin. It's been grown there for millions of years. Human history has been recorded around 5,000 years ago as being used in Latin America, and really it's a small understory tree. It grows well under shade, and it starts out all chocolate starts out as this little tiny flower. It all begins with this small flower. It's about the size of a dime. It's pollinated by a little tiny midge fly. The flower opens up for about 24 hours, and if it's not pollinated, it falls off. But one of the unusual things is that the flower of cocoa trees actually grows right on the trunk of the tree, and also the larger branches. So it's quite unusual. It's a strange botanical adaptation called cauliflory, which is mostly found in the Amazonian regions. Here you can see if that little flower is pollinated and it's lucky enough, it'll start growing into a small fruit. And this is what the fruit starts to look like. This is only about an inch long, this little fruit. But over the course of about 6 months, it can, if it's lucky, the fruit will grow into a full mature fruit. Here you can see some of these orange colors are fully mature pods. And here you can see some of the diversity that exists in the color and shape and texture and ultimately flavor of cocoa. And I would say that, you know, in many ways, cocoa is something that is as complex, if not more complex, than many of the other things that we know and love, like coffee and wine. You can't make great coffee, or you can't make great, you know, a great wine without excellent grapes. And the same is really true for cocoa and chocolate. You have to have great cocoa to make a great chocolate. So in our quest to find awesome flavor, you know, we realized that cocoa is probably 50 years behind wine in terms of the understanding of how flavors are created. Also, it's far behind wine in terms of sustainability and efficiencies. You know, the agricultural process in cocoa is still very much a manual process. Cocoa pods are cut off the tree by hand with machetes typically. And for this reason, most of the cocoa in the world is actually grown in West Africa. The labor is so inexpensive. It's about 70% of the world's cocoa comes from West Africa, primarily the Ivory Coast and also Ghana. But you know, when you cut the pod open, this is what you see. I don't know if anyone's had the experience of cutting open a cocoa pod, but it's a beautiful, delicious, sweet flavor. But the seed on the interior, the cocoa bean, is quite bitter and astringent, and actually quite toxic to many animals, as you've probably heard with dogs, and actually it's a number of different animals. Humans are for some reason able to metabolize the cocoa. But either way, it's a very jarring experience to actually eat a raw cocoa bean. So really the whole process of making chocolate is going from this seed that's been designed by nature not to be eaten and turning it into something that is one of the most revered foods. And you know, to be able to adjust for flavor, there's a lot of complex processes that go on. There's a very complex fermentation process that actually reduces that bitterness and the astringency that's found in cocoa. And it's absolutely critical to making a good chocolate, not even you know, let alone a great chocolate. So the understanding of genetics, the understanding of this fermentation process, and then a proper drying process are all super critical to making an excellent chocolate. Now, one of the problems that we've encountered as a company is that many cocoa farmers have never actually even experienced eating chocolate, especially you know, from their own beans. And so we've entered this this challenge of trying to make great quality chocolate, and the people that we're working with at the farm level oftentimes just don't have, they've never had that experience. And you know, likewise, we've had, you know, very little experience growing the cocoa. So the real challenge for us is, how do we exchange information? And so it's been an amazing process to learn from each other. And the way that we did that was we actually built what we call Cho Flavor Labs. And it's really become, and what they are is just small bean to bar chocolate making laboratory right at the farm, usually at a cooperative, sometimes at a cocoa research institute, like a government cocoa research institute. But these labs actually enable us to share with the farmers how to make chocolate and how to actually taste it from in like a very clear you know sensory way, and be able to exchange information with each other, because they're at the farm, they're able to conduct experiments, looking at genetics, looking at fermentation, all these things. So what that's enabled us to do is actually make a better quality bean together. And we really look at it like a co-creation process. It's also enabled us just to have a better exchange of information about how to grow things in a more sustainable way. Things like best practices for organic farming, which most of our cocoa that we buy is organic. Most of it is fair trade. Also things like regenerative agriculture, being able to share and exchange information about how to set for farmers to, for example, set themselves up for retirement. Looking at the long-term prospects of cocoa farming. Many cocoa farmers are some of the poorest people in the world. So even just having some level of connection has been an incredible benefit for them. One of the big challenges facing cocoa related to today's talks is really that there's a lot of different research that's come out, but a lot more is needed, just in terms of what does the climate in West Africa, a place like West Africa, look like in 25, 30 years. And much of it shows that it's going to be a lot warmer and a lot drier in many places where cocoa is currently grown. So some of the challenges there are, how do we, not displace communities? How do we take farming communities that have been growing cocoa for generations and continue to enable them to, be able to grow cocoa? What are some of the challenges that we face as a scientific community? Things like better breeding, finding new varietals of cocoa that are more drought resistant, new cocoa varietals that might be more resistant to rainfall and wet climates. So all of that is very much in its infancy in studying and understanding that. And some of the leaders of that are actually the Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana, which is the largest cocoa research institute in a growing country. It was the first cocoa research institute in Africa. And Cho, we were able to set up a flavor lab. And this is the flavor team. And these folks are actually in charge of a lot of the breeding as well of the cocoa. So their team directly works with the breeding team. And so really what we're working on together is how can we create great cocoa that is able to adapt to climate change, that is able to create sustainability economically and in many other ways, but also taking flavor into consideration. So these tools that we work on together enable that to happen. So we were also able to break ground on a new and larger flavor research center. And this is in partnership with the Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana, it's a government organization. It's basically like the USDA, but cocoa is the largest export in Ghana agriculturally. So it's quite a big deal there. So anyway, just wanted to share some of that today. I'm not sure where I forgot to set my timer, but not sure if I have a couple minutes left, but I think that's kind of what I wanted to share. A lot of beautiful, complex stories in the world of cocoa, and I appreciate you letting me share a very small one here.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Brad, for giving us such incredible insight into the climate and local community implications behind cocoa production. So this brings us to the last speaker of our series, none other than Stephanie Benedetto. So corporate attorney turned fashion tech and sustainability entrepreneur, Stephanie is the co-founder and CEO of Queen of Raw, a marketplace to buy and sell unused textiles. Prior to starting Queen of Raw, Stephanie worked as a lawyer in the fashion, entertainment, and technology industries and co-founded a sustainable textile manufacturing facility. As an advocate for women in business and sustainability, her companies have been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Vogue, the United Nations, and the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, just to name a few. And among her many accolades, Stephanie is part of Inc.'s 2020 Female Founders 100 list. She's a Grand Prize We Work Creator Awards winner, a Cartier Women's Initiative laureate, and an MIT Solve Global Challenge winner. So Stephanie, we're incredibly excited to invite you to the stage.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here and excited to chat with you all. I am going to share my screen as well. And, we're here today to talk about how do we maximize revenue and reduce our waste in the face of all of these pandemics and trade wars, right? But before we begin, I do want to start with a simple but a bold question. Are you naked right now? You're obviously not, because you're using fabric, right? It's everywhere. It's your clothing, it's the material on your chair, it's the inside of your car, the carpet under your feet. It's where it's supposed to be, clearly, covering things like us. But guess what? It's also where it's not supposed to be. Every single year, $120 billion with a B worth of unused fabric just sits in warehouses collecting dust or being burned or sent to landfill. And as I'm sure you can imagine, with everything going on in the world right now, this supply chain waste, it matters now more than ever. We see more and more of it because of closed stores, canceled orders, entire missed seasons and collections, right? So, based on this image, you might think that we're just talking about little scraps off a cutting room floor. But just to put it into perspective, for some of our enterprise customers, this volume of wasted inventory is so big, it actually eats up to 15% of their bottom line in just 1 year. And we like to say at that volume, waste isn't just environmentally irresponsible, it's also a CFO issue. So clearly that wasted fabric is destroying businesses' pockets right now, but it's also destroying your drinking water. This image actually shows a river in China running red because of contamination from textile dyeing alone. And so I don't want to go too much into the scary statistics. I'm sure a lot of people know them, and I want to talk more importantly about what we can do to solve this. But just to put it into perspective, one t-shirt takes an average 700 gallons of water to produce it, and another 700 gallons of water to wash it in its lifetime. That's just one shirt. Over 2 billion shirts are sold around the world every single year. So according to the World Wildlife Fund, this fact actually really resonated with me. If we continue at the current pace of textile production, by 2025, 2/3 of the entire world's population will face shortages of fresh water and be exposed to hazardous chemicals from textile production alone. So we're not talking about 100 years from now, we're not talking about 50 years from now, we're talking about today and on our shores. And I actually know about this problem because my family has been in the fabric business for over 100 years. Here's a picture of me with my great-grandfather, Pappy. In 1896, he actually came over on a ship from Austria. He landed at Ellis Island and he settled into the Lower East Side of New York. And he was an immigrant chasing the American dream, and he had to make a living. So what did he do? He found materials and supplies nearby, old fabrics and furs and things immigrants had brought over on the ships with them, but they weren't using anymore. And he would repurpose them by hand with minimal waste and minimal toxins, because his bottom dollar depended on it. And he sold these beautiful haute couture fashion garments as finished goods to local customers. And it was incredibly profitable, successful business. And of course, he didn't talk about it as sustainability, but at the end of the day, it's very much what it was. It made sense for people, it made sense for planet, and it certainly made sense for profit. And of course, today's supply chains are way more complicated, but our vision with Queen of Raw and what we see going on in the world is how can we use technology to get back to the way my great-grandfather did business and build towards supply chains of the future that are more on demand, more local, and definitely more sustainable. So how do we do it, right? How do we bring all this waste back to life? Well, we're big proponents of global marketplaces, where in the digital space, we can connect buyers and sellers around the world around all this unused inventory, right? And be able to have everyone have access to these resources. Sellers make money selling, they free up their very costly warehouse space, and buyers get access to high quality materials at a discount and located where and when they need it. So it's a win-win-win, right? That's how we initially thought about our business and the power of marketplaces. But building a marketplace, it's just kind of slapping a Band-Aid on the problem, right? Giving you a platform to sell your waste. How do you get to the root of the problem? How do you figure out why you have all this waste and how to minimize that waste going forward. So we took a look at the problem a little bit deeper, and we realized, why did businesses have this waste? Because of this. This is how some of the world's biggest fashion brands who we were working with were managing their unused inventory. And by managing it, I clearly mean this was not an inventory management system, but an Excel spreadsheet, right? And it was riddled with error, costing the business 10 times more than what they thought they had in unused inventory on the books. And so, if we can understand that this is the problem, then we can clearly find a way to digitize this, to keep information up to date in real time, and to be able to solve this going forward. And so that's what we're really excited to be able to offer today, is some pretty exciting software and tools that allow businesses now in real time to find what you got in waste automatically, put it into Queen of Raw's marketplace. And then over time, it starts to capture all of these intelligent predictions around why you had the waste, how much water, toxins, energy, and dollars have you saved by the actions you've taken buying and selling across Queen of Raw. And then more importantly, in the future, how can we minimize this waste going forward, make our business more efficient, and just keep watching, right, that ROI go up and up and up. And I think that solutions like this and what we're all doing today is going to help businesses in our world not only survive today, but thrive tomorrow. And just one quick highlight, we've saved over 1 billion gallons of water doing it, and we're just getting started. That's actually enough clean water for 1.4 million people around the world to drink for 3 years. So never doubt that the actions you take can have a massive impact on the world. Are businesses actually doing this? One thing I wanted to highlight, they are, brands across industries and around the world, including those you see here, many of whom are our customers, have all signed commitments to reduce their waste by 2030. And what's interesting is that in addition to putting that stake in the ground and making those bold commitments, they've also now are doing more and more and taking more action because of all the recent changes in the laws, right? Think recycling laws, tariffs, EPR policies, trade wars, and even coronavirus. And if they don't take action, they're going to be subject to legal liability in the future. And so I think all of these forces coming together today are what's building for a really powerful opportunity for the future for sustainability and supply chain. And here's one initiative that we're a part of, the New York Circular City Initiative. I believe that the future is about partnerships. We brought together government, enterprise corporations, and non-for-profits and startups to look at what would it look like in New York City to make it circular in the coming years? And what are the changes in the laws needed? How much money can be made and how many jobs can be created by doing it? And what are the solutions for businesses to offset that liability? So, the final thing is if brands, if you're questioning whether this actually matters, we know you're all here because it does. It does. The latest McKinsey report shows how much consumers care about sustainability and how much they are voting with their dollars and their wallets to brands and companies that are making a difference. And if you don't, obviously with social media today, the world will remember. So kind of in closing, my great-grandfather, he came to America wanting a better world for his family, and so do I. I want my children to have clean water to drink, clothes that aren't toxic to wear, and a planet to live in. And I know together we can change the world. My name is Stephanie Benedetto, and I'm the Queen of Raw. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Stephanie. That was awesome and such an incredible look into the power of reimagining supply chain tools to fight environmental pollution. So there's a question that came in from one of our audience members named PRC, and he addressed the fact that, you guys both address sustainability topics in your respective industries. And one controversial topic maybe is the use of animal products, whether that's dairy and chocolate or leather in the textile industry. And I guess the question is surrounding, are there ways that chocolate creation and the recycling of textiles is addressing this?
That's a great question, right? That S word, sustainability, means so many things to so many people. But you as a business and you as an individual and a consumer need to decide what it means to you. For Queen of Raw, we take a broad view of sustainability, and anything that we can certify as dead stock that already exists in the world that is otherwise going to be burned or landfilled, even if it's leather, we see the value in being able to keep it in circulation and quantify the impact that that has. Now, maybe you're not the customer who wants to buy that leather, and I totally get that. And ultimately, maybe we will phase out leather and synthetics and other things that are contributing to negatively to the environment and pollution. But and there are great technologies doing that in the future. So I think we are ultimately going to see these things phased out. But while they currently exist, let's try to keep reusing them as opposed to making new. Right.
Awesome. Brad, would you like to hop in with your insight?
Yeah, I typed in the text or the chat there. Definitely. I'm a big fan of dairy alternatives, and as many are these days. But it's been really fun for the last year or two. Cho's been exploring all the different options that are out there, from cashew to soy to just about everything. I think at one point we had about 29 different dairy alternatives that we were playing with. So stay tuned. We're working on some fun stuff, and we're hoping to actually make some pretty big shifts. So can't say much more beyond that, but I'm excited to share.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. So on that note, let's just ask one more rapid fire question pointed at Brad. If you had unlimited resources at your disposal, is there a specific innovation in the chocolate supply chain that you'd be most excited to tackle next?
I think that I think one of the biggest things is just farmer equity, and it's it is related to sustainability. When farmers aren't making the money that they need to, that's when they're going to go into areas and deforest native forests, or deforest areas and plant more cocoa. So finding ways to be more efficient with farmer productivity, and finding ways to get more money to farmers is a huge area for creativity and innovation. And some of it is it's a long supply chain. It starts with the farm, but it goes all the way through to the consumer. So consumers need to understand that with chocolate, there's a cost for paying $1 or $2 for a chocolate bar. It really, the cost is much higher than that. So
amazing. Thank you so much, Brad and Stephanie. That was awesome. So we'll officially conclude our Sustainability Snapshot series. We'll have a quick break, and we invite you to come join us for our last webinar session, diving into climate and nature, where we'll discuss ways natural capital can be deployed to fight climate change. Thank you, everyone.